So this is our week 9, and it's basically Ajax introduction or practical Ajax programming. I'm expecting that you people have got a bit of experience with. Have you ever studied this Ajax before? Like maybe you would have got the introduction in 222 somewhat. So did you get any introduction to this Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML? Mm, okay. So Daniel, I'm just asking that whether you were introduced or you heard this Ajax programming before in your 222, like Web 222. Anyhow, so here we are going to just discuss this Ajax with some very practical way, as you say, the practical Ajax programming. So we'll talk about that. So up until this point, everything in this course has involved logic that exists primarily on the server side. So we have been, talking about the server side technologies, in which we have talked about lots of things, the likes of middleware, the likes of databases, different databases, the SQL or NoSQL databases. But whatever we talked about was all the talk of a server side. Like again, we were discussing the server side always. However, this one piece of technology that plays a vital role on the client side that needs to be discussed as well. So this is one thing which is very important, and of course, not only this will be important for you right now, but also when you'll switch to your 422 scores.
I know, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, my computer froze. No, no, I don't know anything about Ajax.
Okay, okay, no problem, no problem, no problem. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, so as I said, that it's piece of technology that plays vital role in the client side that needs to be discussed as well. So Ajax is basically somewhat, uh, it's not a truly, it's basically a certain client side technology that gives us this facility of updating our web pages. And I'll let you know that what does that mean, updating our web pages. A collection of technologies used together to create richer user experiences by enabling data to be transferred between a web browser and web server without the need to refresh the page. This is the important point. So Ajax enables us to basically refresh our, like, to get the contents from the web server, like in the client, but no need to refresh the web page. What does that mean? A typical response request works in a way that whenever I just request something, the server sends me the complete page. But Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML, it enables us that I don't want to just to and fro send and receive back the complete web page. Rather, what I want is that I just want to have, for example, a particular area of my web page get refreshed. And one good example is when we are just, submitting a form or filling out a form, you see that we have got only that, for example, if you just select this country, Canada, it will just come up with the states of Canada or the cities of the Canada. So that only part of that, input box, or that field will go back and bring up the information, and that is done by using the Ajax. So basically, that that is how that is how oh, okay. So it will make us, like, the refreshing of a single page, as we have talked about, that if you want to just refresh the parts of a web page, then we'll be using asynchronous, as you people have, some of you have experience, and you have done that. So Ajax introduction, the fetch API. That's a very interesting, a fetch API. In modern browsers, we can use fetch API. Have you used this fetch API before? So fetch API to make Ajax requests. Essentially, we can configure new requests by providing two parameters. So I'll just give you a quick introduction of fetch API, which, if I open it over here, Yes. So have you worked with this fetch API before, Roj? Hmm. So the fetch provides an interface. Yeah, exactly, same like that. So it provides us an interface for fetching resources, including across the network. It will seem familiar to anyone who has access. So if you have worked in XML HTTP requests, which is a legacy, or which is a general method of accessing, the Ajax data and API. But the new API provides a powerful and flexible feature set. So this is basically, it will give us a very powerful feature set, and we'll see shortly that what is that. So let's talk about a bit of concept and usage. Fetch provides a generic definition of request and response object and other things involved in network requests. This will allow them to be used wherever they are needed in the future, wherever it is for the service workers, cache API, and other similar things handled. So it basically does a lots of things, and it gives us this facility of working on that. And one of the very popular, and if you see that, it also defines a concept related to CORS. So cross browser calls, if you want to enable these cross browser calls, we'll be just using this CORS as well, and HTTP origin header semantic supplanting their separate definitions as well. So basically what it is that it provides us a promise. It always provides us a promise, and that promise we need to just convert that to JSON, and then we can just look at it. That resolves to response to the request. Whether it is successful or not, you can also optionally pass an init option as a second argument. So we'll see that. I've just prepared one for that. This one. So differences from jQuery, as you said that you are familiar with the jQuery. The fetch specification differs from jQuery.ajax in three main ways. The first is the promise returned from the fetch won't reject on HTTP error status. This is a very interesting point. The promise which is returned, which it's basically, it won't reject on HTTP error status code. So even though the page is not be coming, even though if the response is an HTTP 404 and 50500, instead it will resolve normally with OK status set to false, and it will only reject on network failure if anything prevented. So this is an interesting part. And as I said, I'll be just giving a quick introduction to that. So fetch, it does not get rejected on HTTP error status of 404 or 500. 404, resource not found. 500, server problem. Server has some problem. So if we are getting it does not fail one way or other. It does not reject the request. Rather, what it does is this promise is basically done, and it will resolve normally. It's resolved, interestingly, with OK status set to false. And it says OK is false, but I would be doing my work. And that's an interesting part. Usually what we see is that if there is an error, if there is a 404 or 500, we usually do not get the statements to execute. But here this fetch will always return the normalized promise. Fetch won't send cross origin cookies. As I said, CORS. So send cross origin unless you set the credentials init option to include. So basically that won't. So it means that for most of the calls we will need to enable that CORS if you want to just enable that cross browser queries or cross browser accessing. So aborting a fetch, and just we'll talk about. So there is headers, there is request, and there is a global scope fetch, which we generally use with this fetch only, right? So okay, so I've just prepared a small lecture with you about that. Like again, it's only a 19-20 minutes video, and I want you to have a look at it. Let me just share that with you people. Okay, can you see the link? It's a very generic introduction to like fetch API first, and not only fetch API, rather we have taken, of course, we have used this. Let me just show you this one. Request response. Yes, it's 19 minutes. 19 minutes video, and I would be just like again. I would love you people to, if you can just look at it here, because it's basically something that would play important role in our coming part. So we'll be just first having this quick introduction of this request, and we'll be using this fetch. And if you can just have a look at it, I'll be just So fetch API, if you have seen in that that video that I've shared, that fetch API can be used for generic, like generally to check your data sending, and you will find very much interesting things over here. In modern world, we can use fetch API, and it has two parameters. Usually, you have seen that we have defined two parameters over there. The first parameter was the URL that we're using, and the second parameter was the options that we set up. So you see here, the location parameter is simply the URI of the resource. That's again, as I said, that this is the first one, and you remember we have done that in fetch. While options parameter could contain any of the number of options, including, and when we have that method is equal to post, we use post method. Not only that, we have to stringify our body of the request as well. You would have seen that over there, that unless you stringify that, unless you convert that into the JSON like format, you won't be able to use that. An object consisting of number of headers, and then we have to define this header as well if you want to. And there are many others. Let's quickly have a look at those others. So these are all the then request.cache, .context, .destination. So there are lots of things that we can just set up by using that one. So in practice, we would like to do something like that, which you have seen already. If you see where my request is equal to new request, so we are generating a new request, which is basically over here. We are just generating this request as a request. So this API users / method post JSON stringify. We want to just define, or we want to just post this user over there, where this user is with the name and the job is unknown, and we are defining the content type is application/JSON, right? So once the request is configured, we can fetch the data using the fetch and provide our request. This fetch method will return promise. We have seen that it always returns a promise with a response object that has a number of methods included. So that response that comes off, the promise that comes up, has these two types of information that we can just take out. So response data, which we can use to read the response stream. This method returns a promise that will resolve into text. So a promise that resolves into text, and a promise which can only use to response stream. This method returns a promise that will resolve to object. So this response.json, because we are sending a JSON type of object, so this is basically, it will just convert that into the JSON format. To execute the request defined above, my request, we can wire up fetch using the following code. So now this my request, which we have created by using a request object, can be wired up like this. Fetch my request. So again, what we are doing, we are implementing this my request. My request is requesting this API, general request API, and it's posting a data into that one, right? So you are just calling them. Then if that is successful, function response, we are calling a function on response, and what we are doing, we're returning response.json. So whatever response has come, we will convert that into JSON and return that. That is very much in the video as well, if you have seen. And if, again, of course, this is a promise, so we'll do this then function JSON, and if it is successfully returned, what we have done over there, if you have seen, then that JSON will be printed out and consoled. That I've done in that example, if you have seen. So this is very much more like that one, but the only thing over changed here is that here they are just wiring up a request by making it separately a request. So that request is basically being wired up over here. But anyhow, it's basically. And then they say that if it is you want to just make that type of thing, you can just use this syntax over here. The response will be response.json, and then this response.json will be passed as a JSON and converted into that. So you can use that, and a get request does not have these parameters. You don't need to use this second parameter of a response. When you are making a get request, you don't need to use this one. So you'll be just passing that and then catching the response and then just printing out the response as I said. And we have seen that we use catch errors as well. And you saw that video. In that video, you would have experienced, Suresh, that the error, it does not generate error by itself. It basically resolves by accepting a number which is not there, but it just accepts that, and it resolves by setting up OK is equal to false. But still, unless you catch this as an error, it won't produce those errors for you, right? And you can just work on that. Now, JSON introduction. So JSON, I hope you are very much familiar with that. Daniel, would you like to just tell me what is JSON? in general, if you are familiar with that. Of course, you would have worked this JSON lots of time in your 222 and some other places as well. So let's discuss that. So website using Ajax is JSON. So JSON data is basically sent as here our Ajax requests, right? So JSON is what? It's a plain text format. So does anyone remember? Exactly. Does anyone remember what was the format that is followed in MongoDB? MongoDB, was it JSON or something else? There is something else. It was BSON, if you remember. The format that is used, it's very much similar to JSON, but in MongoDB it uses which is called BSON. You got it, Sarut? Because if you go back and find out, it's a BSON. Of course, it's more like same syntax like this JSON, but its name is binary JSON, and it's BSON. Let me just show you that, and just for nothing, because this is an important thing, and you see here, and we had an introduction for that as well. This BSON over here. Hopefully, yeah, this is. Yeah, so it's in the beginning. So technically, it's stored in BSON data, right? So of course, it's more like the JSON one, but it's BSON, binary JSON, which is data with the data which is used. Of course, as I said, that syntax is more like the same as a JSON, but it's BSON data. Remember that. Right. So now if you talk about JSON, so JSON is the plain text format that easily converts to a JavaScript object. That's an important part. That easily converts to a JavaScript object. We want to convert that into JavaScript object. Why? Because on network, over the network or over you are sending that data, but when you want to receive that and you want to read that out, you know that a simple text format, you will have to just parse all the string and need to find out which one is the field, which one is the key, which one is the value. So if you convert that into a JavaScript notation, like a JavaScript object notation, that will help you out, that will become an object, an object. So essentially, JSON is a way to define an object using object literal. We are defining an object literal. And if you have an object literal, you know the benefit of having an object literal is that you just place a dot and then you can just access whatever you want in it. Outside your application, using native JavaScript built-in JSON object, we can perform the conversion. So you see here, this is the conversion that is. So this is a JSON string, which is very much similar to our, our object literals or object database. But you see, it is only merely a string. You see, it's a string in a single quotation and it has been passed. So now, if you want to send that over the network, what you do is that you will parse that, and it will be converted into the object. So if you do that parsing, that data will be converted into the my object or JavaScript, like JavaScript object, right? So when you convert the JavaScript object, what is the benefit of that? Now you can use my obj dot users of 2 of dot f name. So you will get whatever user 2 is, this one, because 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is the third user. So basically this will come up. So what we are doing, if you have a string, if you have a JSON string, you want to convert it into JavaScript object. What you do is that you use the JSON.parse. And what is the vice versa of that? The vice versa of that is that my object, this is my object, which is user's name, and this is an array of users, 3 users, user ID 1, F name Joe, Smith, and Jeffrey, and things like that. So this is the object, this is the array object that we have, and its name, of course, its name is user. Now, how can we convert that into a JSON object or JSON string, something like that? So we'll do that. My JSON equal to JSON.stringify my object. So these are the two very important methods: parse and stringify. So they basically do what? Vice versa job of each other. This will stringify your job, and this will be just this will stringify it. So it will be converted. And if you want to respond with the JSON, we can just simply do something like that. So you see here, I have got this one is the I have got a server running at 9,000. I've just set up all these things, and if you want to check that, I hope you will have that also set up. So if I just do that, And I have just done all those things. As I said, that I've set up the server, and this is running at, I think, 9,000. I'm running it, just 9,000. Let me show you this running at 9,000. Now you see here, I'm running this. So if you see here, what we are doing. So this is basically just showing what? These both of the things. Okay, just if you see here, it is just returning that message. And if you go to your again inspect, as I was looking over there, it was just opening directly the network and all those things. So if you see here, for example, we have got this this source, and this is the blocker, and here is its data. If you just want to go and find out in that request, as it is showing over here. So this is JSON data is been returning, and this JSON data is message welcome. So now basically what it is doing, it's basically giving us what the facility of this one. So what we do is that we have just defined a default route, and on default route we are just asking or passing a message in this form, and we are converting this message into like we are accessing this as by using this JSON, and is as a JSON this will be displayed on our viewing area. This is basically our JSON data that has been received, which we have done already a lots of time before that. And we have done that characters or heroes with anyhow. So now if you see here, creating a REST API. Now this is a very important part of it, and we will be just working on that. So REST or RESTful. What is this REST or RESTful API? It's representational state transfer, right? It's a very interesting, phenomena that we use for reading and for making these web requests. And there are different web requests that we can make. So let's start from that. REST or RESTful API. In fact, we have made use of real REST API in this RACREST, and we have used that, and we have worked on that. And this was the practice, like we are practicing AJAX skills by making requests for data. So you see that in that video we have worked on this one, and we have made practical AJAX requests to that one, and we have just tried to find out those values. At its most basic level, you can essentially think of a REST API as a way to use HTTP protocol. So REST API typically is what? Is a way to use these protocols, HTTP protocols. Now we have got different HTTP protocols over here. We have got GET, we have got POST, we have got PUT, delete, and patch, and there are lots of others. So these protocols, if you want to access them, if you want to use them, if you want to test them, and of course, if you want to just make those requests to your servers, you can check by using this REST API. And there are, as we have seen, there are freely available REST APIs. Have you people heard about the Postman, which you can use to make request of? Have you people heard about the Postman? Like this application? Okay, that's why. That's good. You use it, but most of the people, if they do not use it, of course, I will have just a view of it. So that Postman is also is a tool that we can use to make requests to these APIs and things like that. We can check that. So I'm just giving a teaser introduction over here. Maybe if we need somewhere, we'll be just using that as well. So this is a Postman, and as I said, we might be using it. It basically we can make requests to that, a post request or a get request, or all those requests we can made over here. So this is the Postman. So we can just work on that, and we can find out these all those get, post, and put, delete methods over there. So with the standard message format, JSON or XML perform CRUD operations on a data source, we can just work on a data source, and we can work on those data sources. What makes it valuable is that by creating RESTful API, we remove any assumptions about how client will access. So again, REST API, by creating REST API, what we are doing is that we are not assuming anything and assumptions about how client will access the data. So we are not concerned with how client is accessing the data. We are just creating a RESTful API which will be there, which user can just get to get our data from that. So we could make HTTP request to the API from website, mobile app, etc., and it It would be the website or app's job to correctly render the data. So again, we are providing a data, we are opening a gate to our data from by using this REST API, and this is the responsibility of the receiver, which is calling that data. It might be a website, it might be a mobile app, whatever it is their own responsibility to correctly render the data source once it is received. So when they receive that data, they will have to just render by themselves, and they will come to know that what is typically how to display that data, right? So this simplify. So what happens is that this simplifies development of front-end applications that use the data and even removes any specific programming language requirement for the client. It can handle HTTP requests, responses, and JSON. It can use our data. So basically, what we are doing is that by using a REST API, what we do is that we are just saving ourselves from the different language requirements and things like that. So what we do is that we say that we have got this JSON data that you have to access, and you can if you want to access that, this would be in a JSON data, and this is your own responsibility to just check that how you are working on that. So before we think about getting any kind of persistent storage involved, however, why don't we first see how we can configure all of our routes? So CRUD operation routes, we'll be just making or setting up this CRUD operations route over here, and by using this one, user ID, first name and last name, and user ID will be a number and something like that. So we'll try to adjust, or we'll try to define these routes, right? So now the first route, which is API users, which will be used for get all the users, if we want to get all the users from that API. The second one is API/user, the same, but this time we'll be posting that and we'll be creating a user. And then we have this get a single user if you provide a single user ID, as we have done in that video as well. If you want to have a single ID, a single user's information, you will just pass a user ID as a get method. And then update user information, you can use the put method to update a typical user. And we can just delete that by using a deleting ID, whatever ID will be passed, and we'll practically see that. So now to define those routes, what we are doing is that you see that we are just defining API/users, and we are just defining this these routes over there. So let's do that. Let's check them after defining these routes over here. So I'll just remove that. I don't need this one. Now what I need is I need this one, right? So what we have done, we have defined different routes for that typically, right? So let's come back. So what we have done over here, if you see that we are using this request params.user ID, and where this request params come from, that they come from your these params, and you have used that query string over there. So these are coming from the body. So if you see here, we have made request object params method to identify the specific user that needs to be fetched, updated, or deleted based on URL. In a sense, we are allowing here is for the URL plus HTTP method to act as a way of querying the data source. So again, you see API users 3, API users 4923, or even API users 12 will be accepted. They may not necessarily return the valid data. So again, what we have done is that we have defined all kind of these routes over here. So you can just pass this 3, you can pass 4923, you can pass maybe English string, a string, but everything will be accepted. Of course, not all of them will be returning the right data, but the routes will be found by our server, and we can attempt to perform requested operations. So routes will be there. So we have just defined all generic routes, right? Now see here. Now that we have all the routes for API in place, why don't we create a view? So now we will be creating a view that will make AJAX request to test our API functionality. And now we will, to begin, create a views folder. So we'll first create a views folder over here. I want to create that one. And I say views. So we have created a views folder, right? As per the instructions. Views folder and file and add the file index.html. So now let's add one file into view, and that is index.html. Right, so we have just passed that one, and we have defined this index.html. This will be a simple HTML page consisting of 5 buttons, each corresponding to a piece of functionality. So you will remember your JavaScript, the old stored methods of JavaScript, but we'll be using the AJAX request and some simple JavaScript to make AJAX request. However, since we are serving this file from the same server, our API, so again, we need to set up the path because we'll be accessing this views from like this index.html from the views. So just go and set that one in our app. We'll be requiring the path, and not only requiring the path, but also what we do is that we will be defining this route so that every request which comes over here should go to the index.html. I hope you understand that. We have defined that. Now what we will learn, every request that will come will go to the index.html, the route request that we are saying that go to the index.html. Okay, so now we need to have this index.html page. And first of all, I'm just copying it, and then I'll discuss every part of it, every bit of it. But right now I'm just copying it. And as I said, this is all very old, everything that we have done before. Only few things are changed, which are over here by using this URL. So now what I'm doing is that I am just copying it. Oh, sorry, not here. It has to go into index.html, right? This is index.html. So define that index.html. We have saved that one. We have to save that one. And let's see if something is left or okay. Yes. So yes. So we can just now test that one. Now let's go and test this localhost 9000. So you see here, what we get is that we get these few buttons over here, which we have used, or of course, which we have created in this HTML. If you see here that in this HTML, we have created buttons. There are different buttons, and every button is on click is calling these functions or get all users, add new user. And if you see here, get all users will be making AJAX request, get API users, right? And what this will be making AJAX request, this function, this method will be called. And in this method, we are passing the method first of all, and then the URL, and then the data. And on the basis of that, we are just doing what? Fetch URL, the same thing. Method is equal to method. If it is post, it will be just convert to post, stringifying the data, and then sending it this JSON. And the same code that we have used in our video, and we have just seen that one. Else, if that is not happening, like so you do what? Making an AJAX call without providing data using the method. If there is no data, like the data is not provided, you just do that URL, and you will be just bringing up that same one which get one. So make AJAX request. So all of that time we are calling this make AJAX request. If you are passing this data over here, of course it will just go and use this one. And if that is not the case, if data is not being passed, it will just go to this second part and execute that. And for get, we don't need this kind of. So now let's run this one and let's see what is going on. If I press get users, add user, nothing is happening. Why nothing is happening? Let's see here. You see, I refresh it, and if I say get users, so you see that get users request has come, which is giving this message fetch all users. You see that? So response is again fetch all users. We cannot see that response right now. Okay, I'll just show you. So it's just showing that fetch all users. If I click on this one, it says add a user. If I click on this one, it says add a get a user too. You see? If I click that, it says that delete a user too, because we are deleting that user too. If you see user too, we are deleting typically. Now, how to capture that one data? You see here. Let me just show you. See here. Once you have entered the above code, see, so you are seeing that this payload is coming. The data is being shown, and this payload, we are unable to see this payload on our page. So now what we want to see, if we wish to capture this information in our route so that we can make the appropriate updates to our data source, we must make some small modifications. So we have to make a small modification. We have already used this body parser, so we need to use this one. Not only use this one, of course, that we need to install that as well, right? So we need to install this one if we have not done. Looks like I have not installed that one, and we can check that package.json. So there's no body parser. So let me just go there and npm install body parser. Right? So let's install that. So we need to first do what? We need to install that body parser, npm install body parser, and we can just see that if it is. So this body parser has been added to the dependencies, right? And we could have done that by using the dev dependency. Anyhow, So now if you see here, so we defined this one body parser we have not used, and now let's see what else we need to do. So app use body parser. So we need to do that, and even though it might show you the message of the deprecation, but again we are using, it says that it's deprecated, even though you just implement all those things, but it's still it's just a warning that it has been deprecated. And let me just run my file and start. Okay. Oh, crash. Something wrong. Oh, that's good. Of course. How can you use this app before defining it? You see here now it should not crash, hopefully. Now my server is running. All right. So okay, so I don't want server running. I need to do something different as well. Right. So now if you see that now we'll be just now that this change been made, we can access data passed to our API using rec.body. Now we can access this rec.body. Here we were using that rec.params. If you see, now here we'll be using that rec.body, and we can just work on that. So now let's do that. Convert these function calls, just this one, to this one, because now we are using the rec.body and finding out the values from that body. These routes, I want to change these routes and till this point. So now we are just accessing the body name as well. So let's save that one. Server is running. If I go here, API test, why I'm not going over there? Okay, now I'm inside API test. You see here, get all users. Okay. Stop that. Okay, so oh, this one is the okay, right. Inspect this one and add new user. If I see here, you see that now it has been adding that data as add user Bob Jones, right? So now it is basically adding that data to that typical user. If I see the get user, if I go here over here, it says that get users with ID is equal to 2, right? And then update user and then delete. So this is basically what we have done, that now this will be accessing this body.fname and body.last name. So it's first name and last name, it will be just accessing that. And if you see here that it will just bring out that name and it will be showing over there from the body of the document, because we are sending that typical thing. So if you try running our server, test our API again, you will see that message is returned black from the server correctly echo the data sent to API. We now have everything that we need to preform like simple CRUD operations via Ajax on data source using RESTful service. The only thing missing is the data store itself. Now, so we can just convert that into that one for the server. Just you are just trying to convert that characters database. You can try to convert this one as well into that typical form. And now this will be just giving us that typical test of, for example, that we are just basically trying to enter those ones, right? So now what we can do is that you can just implement that one, and you can just go and check whether you are able to just submit that into your database. So this is all, and this is the checking of this this uh, RESTful API, where we are just accessing a typical method. And what we have done in this HTML, as we have discussed this, and in HTML, we have just defined this make Ajax request, a script. We are using a simple JavaScript code here, and we have just defined a script over here, which is doing the same thing, exactly the same thing that we were talking about. And for get request, just using this get method, and for post request or for the other request, it is just coming over here and trying to stringify that. And then all these methods are just calling, they are just making Ajax request by passing this typical typical data. So when you see that when it was passing this one, it was just showing the Bob Jones over there and things like that. So we have just taken out this body of it. So so that very much sums up what we have to discuss today. And I might maybe if possible I might as I said to Suraj, first of all I would like you to just